to hell itself. Crystal fails to jump and plummets into the abyss, met with a message saying, "You look a little run down, why not take a break?" Crystal makes herself a sandwich and returns to find a chat box open with messages from Sally herself. Crystal is confused, but not as much as she should be, and begins to interact with the video game character. Sally apologizes for Sonic's behavior and tells Crystal that he's really a nice guy. He just wants to escape the game. Crystal boots the level back up and begins running into a white void. After 4 minutes, Sonic pops up and kicks her back to the menu where Sally's had her eyes sewn shut. Sally pops back into the chat to tell Crystal that she ought to make up her mind soon, though she hasn't been asked a question. That night, Crystal dreams of Sonic, asking her to help him find his way out of the game. Then he'll stop messaging her and leave her alone. Also, he's lobotomized her in the dream, though it's neither here nor there, really. Crystal asks her dad, who is a computer guy, for help, and he gives her all the stuff needed to hack the game, which is, I suppose, admin privileges? Crystal links the game up to the internet, freeing Sonic into the World Wide Web. This doesn't, however, end Crystal's torments. Instead, she begins to feel Sonic's presence throughout her house. Crystal pops back into Sally's DMs with some stern questions. Sally's replies do little to ease Crystal's fear, as Sally claims she lied because Sonic told her to. In a sense, she didn't lie. After all, Sonic will leave her alone once he's ended her life. And then Crystal feels Sonic breathing down her neck. Sonic is free to roam and take the souls of those all across the internet, and leaves us with a warning that should we find a Sonic plushie, it means he's coming for us. He's gonna be real busy after Comic-Con. This story is a weak follow-up. Even the fans didn't seem to care too much for this entry, and it is pretty much forgotten at this point, excised from JC's canon soon after. It brings back all the things you would expect. Crystal has plenty of video game knowledge, recognizing Sonic's Kefka laugh, all the different Sonic music, the stage looked like the sky of the Twilight Realm from Zelda, only in a very good 16-bit pixelated form. You could see why her and the protagonist of the first story were friends. The chats between Crystal and Sally are very entertaining. The idea is ridiculous, and I love it. Crystal having almost no reaction to it, bearing in mind it is not part of the game, it is some separate chat window. Imagine if you were playing God of War and Kratos hit you up to call you a fucking noob. Other than that, it brings very little to the lore other than setting Sonic free, but that story is hard to follow up. What would Sonic.exe 3 look like? We can only imagine. It doesn't exist. Because, as I said before, JC quickly rolled back this entry and created an alternative sequel to Sonic.exe, one much better remembered by the fans. Round 2 is told in majority via the diary entries of a detective named Derek Green. Derek's unspecified boss tells us both Derek and his sister have previously died, that Derek and his sister were on the case for the Sonic.exe killer, a serial killer with little to no MO, other than every victim owning a destroyed PC with data from something called Sonic.exe. Then he transposes Derek's diary for us to read, hoping we might find some kind of clue within it. Derek's first entry is about receiving a journal from his sister Chelsea. The date marked is December 15th, 2011. In the following few entries, Derek and his sister, both detectives, are put on a murder case in the suburbs. The body has the number 1 carved into its chest. They find the victim's computer is burned up and destroyed and contains data from a file called Sonic.exe, and if it sounds like I'm repeating myself, that's because the story repeats itself. Across a few more entries, more murders take place, the numbers cut into the bodies counting up with each one. Thinking further on the Sonic.exe mystery, Derek muses that he and his sister played Sonic the Hedgehog when they were younger. Chelsea's favorite character was Rouge the Bat. Rouge the Bat is my favorite character too. Awooka, awooka! I would fuck that bat. A few more days pass and more murders occur. Autopsies reveal the bodies are in perfect health other than the heavy wounds and mouths ripped open. They are not in fact dead, however. The bodies are apparently in vegetative states, their hearts still beating, their lungs still breathing. Derek seems to be shocked by this information, though surely the first thing you would check on their body is if they have a pulse. Derek notes that Chelsea has been acting reclusive lately and hopes that she is working on a breakthrough for the case. He also notes that there have been some unusual cult activity in the city, people working a deity known as X. Derek soon comes around to thinking that whatever Sonic.exe game is, anyone who plays it dies soon after. And then remembers his sister recently came home saying she'd bought a new game. Derek leaves the entry in a rush to save his sister, pausing only to explain his panic. By the time he finds her, he is too late. Derek briefly recounts the funeral, where he was wished well by a woman named Shannon Goldman, a member of the Cult of X. While cleaning out Chelsea's room, Derek notices her computer isn't destroyed, and indeed, when Derek powers up the PC, he sees a file named Sonic.exe. Derek makes the wise decision to not play the game, but it doesn't stop Sonic invading his dreams and demanding he play it. 24 murders have taken place by this point. Derek theorizes that perhaps these murders and the whole Cult of X thing are related. Perhaps whoever this X guy is, he's the killer they've been hunting for. 28 murders, and Derek is contacted on Skype by someone named Cole, who informs Derek that indeed the Cult of X is involved. In fact, they're the ones destroying the victim's computer, taking the haunted disk back and sending it on to new victims. Derek can bear it no longer and caves, booting up Chelsea's PC and launching Sonic.exe. The menu screen is normal until Derek hits start and Sonic's eyes turn into those familiar black voids adorned with red dots for pupils. The character select presents Derek with Shadow, Rouge, and Sally. Chelsea's favorite character was Rouge, so Derek chooses to avoid the character and selects Shadow. The first level is some Hall of Mirrors, unidentified piano music drifting in the background. As Derek begins to progress, with each mirror he passes, more grotesque and twisted Shadow is presented to him, covered in bloody wounds and swollen, pulsating eyes. Shadow stops in front of a mirror, and Derek watches as the hedgehog transforms into the monstrous reflection. Words flash. It's not the outside that's important. It's not the outside that's important. It's who you are on the inside that intrigues me. And then, you're learning more about this better than anyone, aren't you, Derek? You're learning more about this better than anyone, aren't you, Derek? That's like the sassy Sonic sound. You're learning more about this better than anyone, aren't you, Derek? Is that... I'll do, whatever. Ignoring whatever's happening there grammatically, the game addressed him personally. On the menu screen, Shadow smiles gleefully with a far-off stare. Derek freaks out and shuts off the game. I just don't get it! Why is all this happening? Who is X? Who is X? Who is X? Sonic? The next day, Sonic speaks to Cole, a stranger who seems to have all the answers, informing him that the X the cult worships is in fact an interdimensional entity known as Sonic.exe. And while Sonic cannot enter our world, somehow a game disc was created that acted as a window to his nightmare dimension. If someone plays the game, X has the ability to pull their soul into his world, leaving them an empty husk. How the fuck did Tom die by having his jaw ripped open, and his dad thought it was a self-inflicted injury? That's just occurred to me as I'm delivering the lines. That's not even in the script, it's just occurred to me. How exactly did his dad think that was self-inflicted? That makes no sense at all. Anyway, let's move on. 31 murders, and the last two bodies might ring a bell. Two young boys named Kyle and Tom, the protagonists of the original story. Soon, Derek is compelled to play more of the game, this time as Sally in a desolate city with no background. Sally wears a demented smile, and while making his way through the city, Derek finds X waiting for him. Sally is seen off, of course, And soon, Sonic, or X, or whatever we want to call him by this point, announces that humans are the ultimate playthings. Derek stops there for the night. Further conversation with Cole, his true identity unknown, reveals that the characters within the game are Sonic's victims, the souls of those he's pulled into his world, presented as game characters. Derek knows this must mean that Rouge, the big filthy Batgirl with wham tits, must be his sister. Derek returns to his journal a few days later to inform it that he's learned new info on X. Apparently, X has 7 guardians, and these are some sort of extension of himself. Reportedly, they exist to keep order in X's dimension and to sow chaos in ours, making people more susceptible to X's fuckery. Further, X plans to one day merge the worlds and make all humanity his slaves. Cole also tells Derek the only way to stop X entering our world is to destroy the disc, which Derek has, unfortunately, handed to the police chief. He plans to somehow steal it back, and finally, in his last diary entry, Derek tells us that Cole, his Skype informant, got by X. Cole was a soul trapped in Sonic's world who somehow found a way to contact Derek on Skype. And during their last DM sesh, Cole gets cut off and Cole returns to the chat under the name X. X calls Cole a cheater who must be punished. Derek curses Sonic.exe's name and leaves us, determined to get the disc and destroy it. He signs off goodbye. Good luck, and then he fucking dies, dude. But to be more specific, Derek's boss tells us he received an email soon after Derek's mysterious disappearance that contained a recording. We hear Derek, captured by the cultists, struggling against his binds. Shannon Goldman, the cultist who approached Derek at his sister's funeral, speaks. chiding Derek for not accepting X. Shannon claims to be X's foremost apostle, chosen because she hates the world. A whole bunch. Derek responds by pulling out the Sonic.exe disc and snapping it in half. But Shannon just laughs because you can just make copies of the disc. There are fucking loads of them. The cultists wheel out a little TV and a game controller, and Derek screams and cries and it ends there, but I think we can assume Sonic gets his soul. Sonic.exe Round 2. It's not as enjoyable as the first entry. A lot of issues, but the main one is simply that it's boring. Say what you want about the original story, but it's got a pace on. Stuff moves fast, it's in and out before you can get tired of it. By comparison, the sequel drags. Things are often repeated pointlessly, and if you'll indulge me in a rant, can we please stop with diaries? Much like flashbacks, they're lazy and uncreative ways to deliver exposition at best, and at worst, in stories like Sonic.exe, they seem to serve no purpose other than hampering the story by anchoring it to a format. If this was simply a story told in first person like the original, told in order, it would immediately improve. The framing device only repeats information already in the story, introducing the irrelevant character of Derek's boss, who only serves to confuse me by not being the chief of police, because that's a different character. Because the story has to stick to being a diary now. There have to be entries and sections added, not because they're important and drive the story, but because it would be odd for Derek not to put it in his diary. And now there's an extra layer of comedy in moments of Derek filling out his immediate thoughts in his diary. Wait a minute, I just remembered something. A few days ago, Chelsea came home from the store and went back into her room. She said she found a new game. Oh my god. Chelsea! Bro sat there and took the time to scribble out the exclamation mark so that his diary knew this was urgent before he went to see if his sister had her soul ripped out her face. Derek's also an uncompelling protagonist. Remember how I complimented the characterization of Tom as a little gamer nerd boy? JC took that away for Derek, and now he's just some guy. His biggest character trait is writing "wow" in his diary a noticeable number of times. Literally the only benefit of a diary format is getting a better idea of our protagonist's feelings, and yet nothing. So I don't like the story, but I will say this for JC. Coming back for what is basically a big lore dump is a good idea. This story certainly has purpose, and in fairness, it does achieve the goal of adding more depth to Sonic.exe. More depth is exactly what it needed at this point if it wanted to spread its fanbase. And boy, did it. There is one more story in JC's canon, but there's a cute little catch with this one, which is that I can't find it. It must be somewhere, but it's just buried. I'm only aware of its existence because of the wiki page that breaks it down. Apparently, Alice is the adopted daughter of Shannon Goldman, X's cult leader. Shannon conditions Alice into the cult, gives her the teachings of X presented as kind and fair rather than torturous. She witnesses Derek's murder amongst other truths of the cult, becomes disillusioned. Eventually, she denies Dex's teachings, but she's already the next in line to be sacrificed, a fate she doesn't avoid. X takes her soul, bringing her into a place he calls Wonderland. If someone can find the original text to this one, I'd love to see it and be able to amend this missing information here, but straight up I cannot locate the last entry of JC's original Sonic.exe timeline. And with these sorry, I had to burp. With these stories, JC had set a precedent for sequels in the Sonic.exe world, and that's exactly what Miss Crimson did for his video game. The sequel was not based on Sonic.exe 2 or Round 2, it was based on a fan story by Joresu Oni, titled Sally.exe. It's appreciably brief and to the point. Quality-wise, it's very much in line with the original Sonic.exe. The game...
Sonic?
Just kidding, Sal. Kiss wasn't that great.
I suppose you
Grass green? Is water wet?
The game will start with a quick shot of a scene taken from the Sonic cartoon, where Sonic and Sally Acorn share a kiss. This scene will blink in and out, followed by the Sega logo set on a black background instead of its usual white. The title screen presents Amy Rose in Sonic's normal position center screen, noticeably flanked by the desiccated Tails and Knuckles from the first games. Hitting start will take the player to a stage titled Not Perfect, with the player character of Amy Rose. Immediately, Sonic is ahead of the player and jumps into a warp ring, used in Sonic games to take the player to a special stage. The special stage contains pink hearts and peppermints and sudden death when you inevitably hit the stage's edge. Sonic will then suddenly appear on screen with his red dot eyes, reaching for the player and flitting rapidly around the screen as music screeches and a girl's screams can be heard, likely Amy's. Swiftly kicked back to the title screen, you'll see Amy in the classic bedraggled grey as Cream the Rabbit sneaks a little peek at you over the logo. Her stage is titled Kind and Fair, all one word, and sees you entering a colourful block-built structure set upon a peaceful lake. As the user begins to move, they'll quickly hit some speed-up items and roll into a ball, pick up more and more pickups, more and more speed, before abruptly stopping in collision with a wall of spikes. It's so abrupt and juxtaposed to the environment that this is the only moment that I do actually find a little evocative. The next and final character is Sally. Her stage, Stage 9, is untitled. Red, with silhouettes. Yours and those of the 5 previously playable characters. And at the center, Sonic, large, spread eagle in some kind of power stance. Story, but because it would cartridge from a flea market and are excited to revisit Mario Superstars 64. When they boot it up, they find themselves sucked into the game, split up into different areas where Mario.exe, the spirit of Dario, begins to mercilessly torment them with knife fights and Bowser brawls before ending them one by one. A more extensive summary of this story can be found on the game's wiki. In fact, it's so extensive, it's pretty much just a creepypasta story itself. And I know, it sounds bad, but trust me, the game is worse. There's a YouTuber, Luigi Kid, a Let's Player who dedicated much of his channel to playing .exe games and spin-offs. The wiki for this game quotes Luigi Kid as saying it was so bad, it gave him cancer. That's the second paragraph of the official wiki. If the story interests you, however, and you know Spanish, you can buy the 24-page novella from Amazon for just $3.78. Despite the weak reception this game received, a remake released in April of this year, 2024, and it is decidedly better with gameplay tweaks, but most importantly, really good sprite art. Not too long after the release of the original, there was a different Mario.exe game that's a lot better. The title screen gives you the option of Mario or Luigi, though you cannot select Mario. Select Luigi and you're thrust into 1-1, which controls and feels a lot like the original Super Mario game. At the end of the first level, however, instead of grabbing the flagpole and heading into the castle, you find Mario, eyes black and bloody. He pulls out a torch and lights the Toad's castle on fire. Escape the spikes that fall from above, and you'll head into some levels set against a black background. In these levels, you'll meet some poison mushrooms that will make Luigi vomit, die, and a zombie toad. Fail the button, mash QTE, and he rips your head off. Succeed, and you rip off his. Continue and you'll encounter Mario pushing Peach to her death before finally slicing Luigi's head off. Mario.exe has a sword. That's just like one of his things. This version by GameJolt user CoolRash has 200,000 page views, but neither of these Mario.exes are the one Markiplier played on his channel.
Welcome to I Hate You Mario, otherwise known as Mario.exe.
This version is also called I Hate You Mario, and it's based on a creepypasta story by Slimebeast. In it, a user downloads a pirated version of Super Mario Bros. As Mario progresses through the levels, he encounters all sorts of profusely bleeding classic characters. After finally progressing past all the levels, he reaches King Koopa's castle to find his brother, Luigi. Scrawled on the walls are the words, "I hate you," and "Why won't..." Actually... "I hate you," and "Why won't you die?" That's not racist, it's just what Luigi speaks like, I swear. Luigi jumps into the air and repeatedly stomps on Mario's head. Just when he thinks he's won, Mario catches him from behind and shoves him into the lava. The final "you win" screen of the game shows Mario, Peach, and Luigi like he usually does, but Luigi's face is melted off. The story comes with these screenshots depicting all the events described, which is a neat touch. Reminds me of Ben Drowned, which we talked about earlier. Well, that's enough Mario.exe. What about Woody.exe? This game is the tale of a Buzz Lightyear battling his way towards a Woody that has been infected by a spirit called Respiro. Respiro is a spirit of vengeance that possessed Woody because of his yearning to get revenge on Buzz, who stole his place as Andy's favorite toy. The cutscene that uses 3D models in this are actually really nice, but I get the feeling that a lot of these mismatched assets are just assembled from some kind of store online. Look at these sprites that must have been oh god, look at these sprites against a background that must have been made in MS Paint. These aren't created by the same artist. The game is not great to play. The jumping is very strange and slidey, and the boss fights are just hoping you hit them enough times before they throw too many attacks at you. The good ending sees you defeating the spirit that possessed Woody and killed many of Andy's toys. When you beat him, you wake up as if it was all a dream, though all the toys remember the events before running off into the other side of Andy's room. Did that not fill your appetite? Try SpongeBob.exe. You play as Patrick, trying to find SpongeBob, progressing through some jumping sections until you reach a room where spikes below you will begin to raise until they impale you. You can escape them and get some kind of good ending, but the Let's Player I was watching said the controls sucked and he didn't want to play it again, and I didn't want to test that for myself. You will then play as Squidward in much the same jumping sections, though it's really dark and foggy now, and then SpongeBob kills you, and then Mr. Krabs, and this one sucks, but it's just another in the endless pile. Check out Luigi Kid's playlist of Sonic.exe games he's played. It's nearly 600 videos. There's Sonic.exe, Mario.exe, Peppa.pig.exe, Banjo and Kazooie.exe, Fall Guys.exe, Fire Emblem.exe, Mario.exe, Among Us.exe, Minions.exe, Discord.exe, Peppa.pig.exe, but a different one, Mario.exe, Discord.exe, Google.exe, PS5.exe, Sunky.exe, Kirby.exe, Mario.exe, Mickey Mouse.exe, Peppa.pig.exe, but it's a different one again, Mario.exe, also a different one, a different Mario.exe, Sonic.exe, but a different one, Sonic.exe, but a different again, and another one, Sonic.exe, 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 Sonic.exe. Thomas the Tank Engine.exe, Luigi Kid.exe, Sally.exe, Peach.exe, Toad.exe, Uno.exe, Windows XP.exe, Dr. Pepper.exe, Peppa Pig.exe, but it's yet a different one, Baby Yoda.exe, Bob the Builder.exe, there's still more, God has abandoned us. So yeah, there's quite a few dedicated Sonic.exe fans, if not of the original story, then of the concept of JC's story. Now that I've once again brought the topic around to JC the Hyena, Sonic.exe's author, let's look at him a little more. I can't find that much out about his personal life. Best I can manage is what I'm told is his real name, Jack Cranley, but that's not an issue because there's plenty to be said for JC the Hyena and his presence online. But here's where things get spicy, because there's a deep blurring of the lines between JC the real person, creator of Sonic.exe, DeviantArt frequenter and Fur Affinity member, and JC the webcomic actor. JC's online presence by and large is role-playing as a character from a webcomic he created. Here's the issue. These comics were uploaded to JC's DeviantArt, which has since been deactivated, and thus makes them very hard to track down and read. I only know any of this because of a page on the Villains Wiki that explains the character of JC within the comics. Whatever it may have been, the important part is the character that JC was. JC the Hyena, aka Sir JC the Hyena, was the on-again, off-again antagonist and occasional collaborator of the Sonic Gang. Malicious but kind-hearted deep down, running a corporation called Hyena Laboratories Inc., JC is, most importantly, a god, creator of the world. And then Jack created a horror version of the same concept and got famous. I don't think this is necessarily important to the story of Sonic.exe, but I do think it says interesting things about the person we later found out JC was. For those who are unaware, Jack Cranley, the man behind JC the Hyena, was eventually ousted from the internet after being accused of manipulating underage girls, mistreating his partner, and engaging in explicit roleplay with another underage individual. I don't particularly want to linger on this topic for too long, but it's important for you to understand why I have no sympathy for this man and will happily revel in being mean about his stories, and now you can feel no guilt as we laugh at this man-child. It was January of 2014. The day started like any other. People went about their business, birds chirped, the sun shone, and then there was a word. And the word was spreading. And the word was that Sonic.exe, well, it was gone. The proposal had been made in the days before, but official word leaked mainly through JC himself on DeviantArt. Creepypasta Wiki had decided to remove Sonic.exe for not meeting quality standards, regardless of its popularity. A DeviantArt user known as YoFreshBeans spoke for JC, posting the following to a fan forum. Sonic.exe has been deleted from the Creepypasta Wiki page. I had received word from JC about an hour ago. I'm trying to calm him down over Skype, but he's far too upset to have a light conversation with at the moment. 2 other creepypastas JC has written have been removed as well. Apparently, the admins either hate furries or just JC in general, and they want nothing to do with Sonic.exe or anything that vaguely resembles Sonic.exe. I'm going to ask you to please spread this information around to all Sonic.exe fans out there. As Sonic.exe community leader, it is my responsibility to let people know what happens with our favorite embodiment of evil. Because I promised JC that I would spread the word, because he trusts me. Hell will be risen. I'll see to that.
Hi, this is Editing Lorian here, coming in to just say, fuck you. That little bastard scratching away at my head. Guess how long before I notice he's doing that? Go on, guess. Put it in the comments. I'll pin whoever gets it right.
I wish I could dig up more of the discussion between the moderators before the decision, but it's either buried or entirely behind closed doors, and for that reason, I'm less to mostly view and recount it from the aftermath. Soon after, JC posted a rant that would go viral and become one of the largest parts of his legacy. I deeply regret to inform you all that I have received some bad news. The admins of Creepypasta Wiki have finally decided to delete Sonic.exe off of the wiki on the grounds that it was badly written and had too many cliches, and was a bad example of what should be a creepypasta. Bull friggin' horseshit. As you can see, I am furious with the fact that my masterpiece, which has won the hearts of millions and has been a massive impact on the internet, is being bought down by a bunch of jealous, arrogant furry haters. But this does not mean I'm going to just sit down and take this lightly. No, 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 no. They have been messing with the bull, and now they've called out the horns. Listen, everyone, I need your help with this. We are at war here. I want every Sonic.exe fan who is reading this to get the word out. I want you to tell every other Sonic.exe fan out there, every fanatic, every artist, every follower of my creation about this. Tell your friends who are also Sonic.exe fans if they have to. Tell them we have to keep the spirit of Sonic.exe alive. More fan art, make more videos, block the haters, praise Sonic.exe like you never have before, build websites dedicated to his greatness. Whatever you gotta do to keep him alive and strong, just do it. The deletion of Sonic.exe from the wiki is but a minor cut on our flower of growth. It will be released in 2017. Tom is a college student who received a mysterious package from his best friend Kyle, who has been missing for 3 weeks. The package contains a video game called Sonic.exe. A hastily scrawled note insists Tom play it for himself. Kyle found it so addicting. Before Tom even gets a chance, however, Kyle turns up dead, his body mutilated, the jaw hanging off, his esophagus ruptured as if something large was forced through it, but not like that. When Tom finally plays the game, he finds it's some disturbing rendition of a 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game. Tom is taken to an abandoned city level as Tails the Fox, while an off-putting voice doing a bad Sonic impression instructs him to hide while it seeks. After roaming about the level for a while, Tom finally bumps into the Seeker, a strange Sonic reskin with no gloves or shoes. Tom is struck by a strange panic as the creature looks into the camera, telling him that he's not very good at this, are you? Its pupils swelling to swallow. Its eyes. Tom runs and hides inside a building, but finds himself instead inside a burning forest where a Sonic doll head staked upon a black tentacle grabs Tails and holds him over the fire to cook. As the face of Sonic with his great black eyes fills up the screen, Tom hits the power button in a fearful sweat. As he tells his friends about the experience at college the next day, a girl runs into the cafeteria crying out that their teacher has been murdered in a manner disturbingly reminiscent of Kyle. When the detective Derek Green arrives, he takes Tom to the scene because he was Kyle's friend, and it makes no sense in context either. The scene displays the same MO of Kyle's killer, no signs of forced entry, jaw distended, and perhaps, most strangely of all, the victim's computer screen smashed. The scene is clearly one more in a string of killings Derek has been investigating. The college doesn't shut down, however, and so Tom and his friends are able to go to the anime club room and use the projector to play this strange Sonic game. The scene is once again disturbing as they play Sally, making her way through a hall of rooms, stumbling across the mutilated hanging body of Fiona the Fox, a character from the Archie comics. Leaving in a hurry, they suddenly find themselves back in the empty city Tom explored the day before, until the projector screen begins to distort and digitally tear. Sonic appears in the display, morphs into a nightmare form, reaching forth from the screen, coming out of the projection. Tom hits the power in a fearful sweat. Wait, we already said fearful sweat, that was the previous one. Let's try a different line. Tom hits the power and unplugs the screen, getting rid of the monster. The next day, Tom learns about the cult of X at the library. Same as the original story, there are a bunch of so-called wackadoos worshipping an entity known as X. Regrouped at college, Tom and his friends notice their other friend, Alana, is absent, and in their hunt to find her in the computer lab, are confronted by X, not requiring the Sonic.exe file to enter our world. Unable to save their friend, they watch X brutally steal her soul before making a mad dash escape. Finding his way to the offices, Tom announces over the school intercom, it's time for everyone to evacuate. As everyone attempts to escape the building, they realize it's too late. The doors have already been barricaded shut from the outside, and in the ensuing panic, Tom and his friends begin being separated and picked off by the malevolent Sonic until they reach the canteen food storage locker to haul up for the night. As morning arrives, Tom manages to get a call through to the detective, Derek, who assures him that they'll find a way to get him out. All the while, his friend Roger is stealth assassinated behind him, and Tom turns to see his corpse ripped open. In a rage, Tom runs through the college to his dorm where he smashes his laptop in hopes of sealing X's entrance to the world before being confronted with Kyle, now in the body of Knuckles the Echidna, stuck in Kyle's old laptop. Yes, this is real. He actually wrote this as a serious reboot a la Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft. Kyle the Echidna is suddenly replaced by Sonic, who crawls out of the screen in order to escape X's eternal torment. Tom resorts to taking his own life, robbing the creature of its prize. A few days later, Derek Green sits to create games in the vein of Sonic.exe, whether it be remakes, follow-ups, or entirely different games given the .exe treatment. Of the 20 games that Luigi Kid played for the challenge, one stood out for the rest, and that was, of course, Luigi Kid The Outbreak, which went on to be the challenge winner, touting 3D graphics above and beyond expectations, satisfying gameplay, and an impressive reimagining and integration of Luigi Kid's classic moments. It stole the hearts and minds of Luigi Kid fans far and wide. But if anything, But if views are anything to go by, one of these games spiked a lot more interest than any other, and that was Sonic BC Port, Joe Doughboy's entry.
And it is
Player, in this case assumed to be found him first and again, a sound player before distending his own neck with a sickening crack, and we cut to black again. A sound like a laugh plays in the darkness. It kind of sounds a little Kafka-esque, dare I say. 2 red dots appear quivering in the dark, flanked by the words, "Let's begin." Let's begin. Back to the main menu where Sonic appears wagging his finger in the classic Sonic logo before distorting into some wretch of himself. Past that, we're left at a character select with a broken, grayed out Eggman and Knuckles. The only character left selectable is Tails. We find ourselves in the gameplay section, possibly the most innovative change from the Miss Crimson version. The ground below our feet seems to be built from fleshy, contorted faces, and running quickly encounters those weird mouths. Making contact with the mouths instantly returns the player to the start of the level, but even as they progress past these, disfigured corpses begin to chase them. Spirits of the damned. Some of these hurt you, some of them don't. It's a little weird, I don't know what's going on there. Once we finally beat this section, we meet Cream, who speaks with a distorted voice.
Every day, I come out waiting for you.
Further on, Tails suddenly becomes stuck in the edge of the screen, squealing in fear for so many seconds that I started to doubt if this was intentional. That's before a strange tree creature comes barreling in from stage left and delivers us a browser message. Get out. In a new scene below a storm-filled sky, Tails stops to tell the player to get lost. We heed not his request and move forward. Once more, we hit a new stage, some black void with white outlines for platforms. Here's where Sonic begins to drop his lore for us.
I missed quiet. Before I was birthed, it was peaceful, dark. Then, a burst of conciseness.
I assume that's supposed to be consciousness? Is this Joe Doughboy's mistake, or a reference to how bad Sonic's grammar is in the original story?
I was indirectly created. A mistake. The error in the system that is the void. Nothing. A dark mass of energy floating endlessly. Until that fateful day.
Giant, creepy Sonic head, its eyes roll forward with a crack. We make our way through another platforming section, chased by Sonic, and find ourselves at some mausoleum, possibly a temple. Sonic speaks through a dialogue box, asking us why we press tail forward, knowing it only moves him closer to a grisly fate. One more gameplay section where we must get over some platforms that collapse below our weight, and we reach the game's home stretch. The game scrolls up to Sonic, or should I say, X, next to the character select box.
It's about time,
He says, before he teleports Tails into the box and his heart explodes from his chest. Sonic suddenly looks in the dark, eyes aglow, and after an extensive pause where we wait for a jump scare, a crash window. In review, the game boasts a decently unsettling atmosphere, never letting you get your bearing or feel at ease, which is commendable. Even more commendable is the quite outstanding sprite art. Some of these Sonic faces look amazing, all the touches here and there. The game was visually awesome for a one-person game jolt point. To this day, no one knows why Tails doesn't have his tails though, so it loses points for that. Here's the big criticism though.
The gameplay sections that made this stand apart from the original game are very rough. Jumping is slidey, momentum feels very strange. I was extremely glad to see Luigi Kid have the same issues I did on this front, to vindicate that it's not just simply a complete lack of competency on my part.
Look at that. I pressed jump, but it's not working. Whoa.
Specifically, this last section where the platforms fall beneath you. When you land, often the game won't let you jump before the platform is already dropping and it's too late. Coupled with the 20 or so seconds it takes to walk back to the platform section when you respawn is an inexcusable drag. In addition, immediate death restarting you in a split second over and over kills the momentum the game builds. If you ever played one of these educational games where it's normal gameplay that occasionally halts to ask a question about trigonometry or something, it feels very similar to that, except that instead of it being gameplay being interrupted, it's gameplay interrupting the rest of the experience. The game does follow on from JC's original lore in some way with its own flares. From the dialogue Sonic gives us in the Mausoleum, we know this version of X is formed from dark matter in space, and after floating through the cosmos, he came across Earth, limiting himself to interacting via this game for the sheer joy of it. Tom, Kyle, and the rest still exist and are other victims of X. Not that it's mentioned in this game, but Joe Doughboy has confirmed this is the case. Fortunately, this game garnered a lot of praise, fans impressed with what I must reiterate is some top-tier sprite art, as well as the lack of screamer jump scares that had long been synonymous with creepypasta games. In very, very short order, there came about a boy named John Kuhn, who, in league with Joe Doughboy, was creating a remake of Sonic PC port to iron out the kinks. Best I can tell, the remake demo released as early as August, just 2 months after Joe Doughboy created the original, and while it only consists of a short section of game between the opening and Tails tripping over in the flaming forest known as Angel Island Zone, it generated a similar hype, with the gameplay now feeling so much smoother, amongst several other quality of life improvements. Since then, many updates have been released to the point where the game now checks your computer files to find your name and calls you out in person. Even with all these updates though, the game still hasn't reached full release, and after over 1,400 days of waiting, it might be fair to say this is in a development hell. I know from Joe Doughboy's Twitter that he is still working on it and continuing looking for illustrators and artists to assist in the project. Unfortunately, at some point, there was an upset where one of the artists involved started making some now removed transphobic tweets, and this led to a lot of rumors that the game was cancelled. These rumors came not least from John Kuhn himself, clearly worn out and self-admittedly unmotivated after the fiasco with their artist, who was swiftly removed from the project, by the way. John Kuhn made a joke tweet after the events about cancelling the game, and a lot of people missed the joke, which led the rumor to go rampant.
Sonic.exe PC port, aka one of my favorite, if not even the best Sonic.exe related fan game, sadly got cancelled. Posted this on Twitter, so you guys probably know about the one of our members of PC port team thing. After that, I really got unmotivated on continuing the game, and then it's official. PC port remake is cancelled. I'm sorry if I disappointed you guys, but I can't handle anymore. I have missed the most important thing. Sonic PC port wasn't cancelled at all, and I'm so damn sorry for not understanding this goddamn joke.
Even Luigi Kid himself made a video about it. Fortunately, this was quickly cleared up, and as far as anyone knows, things are very gradually continuing behind the scenes. Sonic PC port remake on GameJolt presently holds over 3,500 followers, which for a GameJolt page is massive. Nearly 500k page views too. You can see how vibrant the interest in this project has been throughout the years. YouTube videos, mostly Let's Plays, unsurprisingly, of the game can easily rack up views in the hundreds of thousands, and some shorts even in the millions, all for a remake of a game one guy threw together for a YouTube competition. They didn't even win! The continuous rollout of updates over the last few years has kept it and Sonic.exe in the zeitgeist, but it has had to share its spotlight because there is another who shares the title of Premier Sonic.exe experience. A mod, actually. See, there's this game. It's called Friday Night Funkin'. Friday Night Funkin' is a rhythm action game developed by the Funkin' Crew Inc. for Newgrounds. You play as Boyfriend on a path of increasingly challenging rap battles in the hopes of rescuing your love, Girlfriend. Rap battles consist of tapping the direction arrows timed to the musical beat. very reminiscent of DDR or Guitar Hero, or for some reason, as the Wikipedia page emphatically points out, Club Penguin? The game actually shares a lot of similarities with Sonic PC port. First off, its demo being released in 2020, though October, not June, being created for the Ludum 47 Game Jam. The game quickly garnered massive popularity due to the distinct art style created by Evil Skater and Phantom Arcade, and musical tracks by Kawaii Sprite. On release for the Game Jam, it boasted only a few tracks, but it did not stop a cult following rapidly evolving around the game. Following this swell of interest, head programmer Ninja Muffin announced a full release for the game to begin production, planning to release it under the title Friday Night Funkin', the full-ass game. In April of 2021, the game took on a Kickstarter that reached its funding goal in mere hours, finishing at nearly $2 million, which was nearly $2 million more than their original funding goal of just $60,000. It remains in development here in 2024, but fans have taken it upon themselves to add their own content in droves, and because of the game being open source, it's very easy to mod, and the identifiable but simple art style was easy enough to learn that artists and casual game developers flocked in. I can't find a concrete number or one website that appears to be the main hub for mods, but some of them have over 1,000 different results, and one of the most unpopular, and one of the most popular is Versus Sonic.exe, created by Rightburst Ultra with over 1.4 million downloads. Have you guys seen my top? You can't see it. I've just realized you can't see how cool my top is. Here, it's a bunch of hands. See, it's cool. I just bought it. It's a new one. It's a new top. Where were we? I suddenly got distracted. My ADHD is taking over. Can you believe it? Released August 2021, you take on Sonic as his eyes begin to bleed, and as the rap battle continues, you'll be met with all sorts of cute nods and references, little jump scares, the screen glitching. Best him, and you'll unlock a sound test that functions more like a cheat code screen where entering the right combination takes you into some hidden levels, including Lord X and this guy Margin Sonic. After the massive success, Brightburst Ultra got to work on an updated overhaul with the assistance of several collaborators, including Joe Doughboy, creator of Sonic PC port, doing sprite art. Update 2 includes so much more, it's kind of crazy. The possessed bodies of Eggman and Knuckles jump into the fight, Tails, Dole, Sunky and Sonic, the gang is all here. And got to be said, the music is pretty sweet too. I'm not a Friday Night Funkin' aficionado, but this seems very well composed for a mod. Well, while we're discussing controversy and Friday Night Funkin', let's turn our gaze now to the mod team and their endless drama. Alright, hello and welcome to the Controversy Corner, as you can see by the sign. That was the wrong sign, pretend you didn't see that. I'm actually going to move out of the corner. Now that I've done the joke, I can get a better shot than this. Hang on. Come with me. How are you guys doing today? You enjoying the video so far? You having fun? I hope so. Hope you don't hate it. Set that up. How's that? That'll do. I'm relatively happy with that. Am I centered up properly? Looks like it. Okay, right. Where were we? After the first version of the mod released, the team ballooned to an obscene size. We're talking nearly 60 members on rotation, more than a lot of actual games. And this is apparently not even an exception in the FNF mod world. Rotating into the position of mod director was one Revy03. Revy was 18 during her appointment to the role and is responsible for adding a character called Faker to the mod for the V2 release. And this character became a beloved fan favorite with the song Black Sun, which accompanied Faker's level. Soon after the release of V2, some DMs started to drop, and allegations rolled in like a swarm of locusts, devouring every part of this video. The DMs supposedly provided evidence of Revy grooming two main individuals, one aged 16 and one 14. This evidence wasn't requesting sexual favors or illicit photos, but ERP. Erotic roleplay is where people pretend to be characters and enact their fantasies over message chats. Obviously, this is very common in the furry community. Quickly, the mod team turned against Revy, and the community weren't far behind. In no short order, Revy was kicked out of the director position and her beloved character removed. There were 4 primary members of the mod team requesting Revi's head on a pike. One was QB, the 16-year-old Revi had allegedly groomed. The main evidence QB provided were these 3 screenshots of Discord chats, of which only one is relevant. Revi attempts to start ERP with QB, QB says no, and that's the end of it. As stated, QB is 16 and Revi 18, so this is dodgy behavior, but most people don't consider it you should have your entire career and reputation ruined and be doxxed and harassed off the internet bad. For most, a heartfelt apology with a clear dedication to being better would have been enough.
Personally, I don't think so. This isn't a question of how weird it is, and this video isn't to try and force down your throat that it isn't weird, but there is a massive line between weird and pedophile groomer predator. I find Revi innocent.
The most dedicated Revi haters formed a movement called Down with Revi and made it their personal business to not only dox Revi, not only destroy her reputation, but going as far as to harass and dox those who supported and spoke out in support of Revi. While I at no point wish to make light of any trauma or discomfort, it is hard to ignore the stink of malicious intent behind QB's accusations. Without any further evidence, QB's cries of grooming and traumatizing behavior are entirely unsubstantiated. The evidence produced for Revi's grooming a 14-year-old holds possibly even less water. First, because it's clear throughout Revi's intermittent chats with the individual that she didn't know their age, and she never made any particular advances towards them, little more than crude and suggestive jokes. And you can call it weird, sure, but it's not proof of anything, let alone a crime.
This one, I mean, you're being strange. I will say this, you're being very strange.
I understand. I understand. And I'm not gonna refute that because I can even look back on it and be like, yeah, this is fucked. I'm being a complete idiot ass of myself.
The next character strongly opposed to Revi's forgiveness was Jester Frog. Proceedings on how to deal with the Revi situation were extensive within the team, helmed primarily by Joe Doughboy. 10 months were spent building a document defining the allegations. But it turns out a lot can change within 10 months. For example, Jester Frog came under fire with allegations of abusive behavior and grooming. Jester was over 18, like Revi, so there went another head of the Hydra trying to destroy Revi, and the hypocrisy of it weakened the prosecution. Avery is our third accuser, who jumped Jester's defense, which was one more nail in their coffin. DMs were dug up in which Avery admitted they knew the case against Revi was exaggerated, and that was before they were also substantiated as a groomer, abuser, and just general piece of shit. But perhaps the biggest piece of shit in this toilet is the quite legendary Rightburst Ultra, which isn't true. Nothing he did was worse than the crimes the others committed, but it makes for a funny sentence. Rightburst, as mentioned, was the mod's creator. Rightburst took it into hand to not only destroy Revi's reputation, but dox her and additionally dox and harass anyone who supported her. Despite the disintegration of most evidence, Rightburst Ultra refused to stop his assault, and to this day, he continues to insist Revi's guilty of all crimes and takes every opportunity to insult her. Rightburst was only 16 at this time, so a degree of leeway can be given, assuming they get their shit together soon. Any other attempts to create mods with Rightburst Ultra involved quickly failed, or he'd be kicked off the team for toxic behavior, and at this point, Rightburst has spent most of the last 2 years digging a deeper and deeper hole for himself. It wasn't long before Revi was considered widely innocent of the main crimes levied at her, and fans were begging for her character to be returned, but the damage was done, and Revi had no interest in returning, and for all these reasons, further work on the mod had fallen through, and the team had dissolved. V3 left a hopeless dream. Right, we can finally move on to something a little bit more fun and get away from all that. So, let's see, what's next? Ah, no! The same month as Versus Sonic.exe released, the allegations towards JC started becoming public knowledge. JC's girlfriend coming forward with stories of abuse, which were followed by others calling out JC's grooming. Another event including JC ERPing erotic roleplay with a 14-year-old. JC got into contact with a Luigi kid to discuss his side of the story, which include taking accountability for the ERP events and apologizing profusely, trying to explain how it happened, how remorseful he was. Unfortunately, while Luigi Kid in his comment section seemed happy to forgive the situation, JC did nothing to address the other numerous allegations levied at him. Fortunately, the wider Sonic.exe community is not so forgetful. JC elected to relinquish the rights to Sonic.exe to Shannon, his partner, who he considered the co-creator. However, Shannon was either uninterested or not equipped for the role and decided to further relinquish the rights to Astronomicon X, another victim of JC who was more active in the community as an artist. Astra, who now goes by Shay, then named Joe Doughboy the co-owner. Due to a complex trickle-down effect, the creator of Sonic PC Port, is now the co-owner of Sonic.exe. What this also means is that Joe Doughboy's lore is official lore. X is not an interdimensional being, but an entity formed of dark matter in the far reaches of space. Joey also worked on the Friday Night Funkin' mod, which means that that is also officially endorsed and considered some kind of canon, and that is more than enough excuse for me to break down the lore and details of every character in it. Here we go! Okay, welcome back to this shot from earlier. Are we all ready? Now it gets fun again. We're done with the really depressing, lame part. We're back to the fun part. Okay. Starting story mode, we'll begin a level called Too Slow. A cutscene will begin where a classic Sonic.exe is seen, setting Tails' head upon a spike before a microphone is thrown at his feet. The camera pans to show the boyfriend laying down the challenge. The first phase of the song is slow and gentle, not too challenging, which might make you drop your guard until Sonic bursts into maniacal laughter. At which point the music kicks into a much faster BPM and the notes start flying. Throughout the level, another Sonic.exe will crawl out in front of the screen to obscure the view, which adds a little extra mechanical challenge in tandem with static notes. If you miss any of these notes, the screen will flare with static, which additionally obscures the view and drains a lot of your health if you miss them. Health is represented by this bar down here. The further the characters are to the left... This is confusing. The further the characters are to the left of it, the more health you have. The further to the right, the less. Get all the way to the right, and it's game over. Beat this Sonic.exe, and he'll grab BF, ready to consume him, or at least that's what it looks like. He's got these little gloves that poke out of his mouth, so God knows what he's got planned. BF is saved by GF using her powers, which are explained in Vanilla Friday Night Funkin'. She's part demon or some such, I don't know, I didn't look into it. The pair escapes into the woods, but Sonic.exe is not so easily bested, catching them in the dark forest, taking us into the level called You Can't Run. The twist with this one is about halfway through, Sonic takes you into a world of pixel graphics, and it looks really neat. This mod all looks pretty damn fantastic, so it's barely even worth mentioning. In this level, mechanically you'll also be assailed by phantom notes. These are notes you are not supposed to hit, as doing so will incur damage to your health. With how fast everything is moving on higher difficulties, you can imagine what kind of a pain this causes. Best this level, and Sonic lets out an enraged cry, your screen being overtaken by static, which clears to present you with the third act, Triple Trouble. Triple Trouble is a gauntlet. It basically pits you against 4 back-to-back opponents, one of them twice, and each one being nearly as long as each of the first 2 acts against Sonic.exe. As soon as the level begins, you'll be jumped by Tails, his grayed-out body now possessed by a rogue soul. He'll be followed up by Knuckles, and then Sonic.exe comes in for a round before handing off to Eggman and then returning for the final part. Along with this tag team assault, you'll also be tasked with picking up rings, which act as a 5th key besides up, down, left, right, down, up, which did I say? Up, down, left, and right. Picking up one of these rings lets you ignore the damage from the next note you miss. The next note you miss. Picking up one of these rings lets you ignore the damage from the next note you miss. Oh my god, why do I keep messing up the line? A small lifeline in this 1v4 relay race. You can also expect to keep encountering the phantom notes from the last level here too. Sonic.exe now has reached his final, most beastly form, his limbs stretched to inhuman proportions, shadows across the top of his sprite making this gorgeous purple and blue coloration, and the letter X torn across his chest. This song is also an actual bop, especially Eggman's bit. Beat this level, and Sonic will stand there like, what the fuck do I do now? And then a bunch of 4-digit numbers will appear on screen. Head back to the menu and you'll see you've unlocked a new option, Sound Test, where you can enter 2 2-digit numbers, which of course is what the numbers are at the end of the story levels. Entering 0707 will take you into Cycles, Act Unknown. This is a battle against Lord X, which, yeah, I know, isn't Lord X and Sonic.exe the same guy? Yes, canonically, no, in terms of how they're presented in fan art, and in this mod, they're 2 separate characters. Honestly, I don't care much for Lord X's song Cycles, and there's not much to say about it mechanically either, just a straightforward DDR level. Lord X's design is decent, but I prefer the final evolution of Sonic.exe we saw before. Enter 1226 and its endless act infinity. This is where we introduce our first character not from Sonic.exe canon, Margin Sonic, and his many replicas peeking at you from the background. This guy is a reference to Sonic CD, a mainline Sonic game released in 1993.
Sonic the Hedgehog CD.
If you went to the sound test in the game, I should explain sound test. I'll do it in a minute. If you went to the sound test and entered numbers 46, 12, 25, this screen would come up. The Japanese here translates to "Fun is infinite, Sega Enterprises, Margin." Margin is also Japanese for demon. Many a child was struck with fear upon seeing the screen, whether able to read Japanese or not, because it's really creepy. This screen developed its own urban legend as some kind of anti-piracy screen, but it's actually not intended to be scary at all. Basically, the landscape developer for Nintendo was a guy named Masato Nishimura, whose childhood nickname was Margin. The music accompanying this screen was meant to be more fun and less sinister. This song is quite fun, not as good as Triple Trouble, but better than Cycles. Mechanically, the level doesn't do a great deal, but I did catch Right First Ultra in an interview explaining Margin's lore as him not being truly evil, unlike Sonic.exe and Lord X.
Do you think Margin Sonic is good or evil?
I'd say he is the guy you want that. He will turn you into one of them so they can be with you for eternity.
You can now return to the sound test to enter your next code. So, sound tests are a thing from video games past, which often function as an extra secret unlockable for 100%ing a game or the like. They let you, for example, bring a weird secret. Jeez, I should explain Tails Doll. Tails Doll is basically the other Sonic creepypasta. There are numerous, but it's the other really big one. Introduced in the Sonic-themed kart racer Sonic R in 1997, Tails Doll existed to fill out the roster of Sonic and Knuckles. Both had metal versions as playable characters, so they needed one for Tails. Why exactly they chose to make this character Tails Doll and not simply Metal Tails is unknown, but likely just comes down to the designers feeling like a switch-up. For this reason, the character having no lore or precedent in the universe stood out, and so someone wrote a creepypasta about him. The story is about a dad who oversees his son playing Sonic R and asks who that weird Tails-looking guy is, and his son tells him it's Tails Doll. That night, the dad plays his son's game. He's a Sonic fan, like most people, and chooses Tails Doll as his character, making the console suddenly turn off. Later that night, he wakes up to a sound in the house. And what do you know? It's Tails Doll, there to kill him, which it does. Both the author and publishing date of this creepypasta are unknown, which adds an air of mystery to the whole thing, and it got big a couple years after Sonic.exe. Tails Doll has pretty much been absent from the official Sonic title since, but he did pop up in the Archie comics at one point. Despite this, the story has remained popular around the internet, and so we see Tails Doll here in Versus Sonic.exe. His song is called Sunshine. It sounds like a baby metal song. It goes pretty hard. Around halfway through, there's a tempo switch up, during which the screen fades in and out with Tails Doll singing, which makes it rough to see what you're doing. It's also in first person during this section, with a little bobbly thing on Tails' head lighting up and changing color. I like the stage a lot. There's a lot of creativity at play in it. The whole 3D aesthetic going on here is referential to the character screen in Sonic R. All the little details and references to things in Sonic's past bring heaps of charm to this project. Typing in 0821, referencing the mod's release date, August 2021, will take you to the stage Chaos. It opens with a cutscene of Sonic chilling on this ledge, which appears to be some kind of well to hold the Chaos Emeralds. Upon your entry, he loses his balance and falls into the well. Using code 3318, and oh shit, he's back! Rising from the well, powered by the Chaos Emeralds, it's Fleetway, and your eyes aren't deceiving you, he is flipping you the bird. Fleetway Super Sonic is a character from the English series Sonic the Comic. Please don't ask any more questions, I have no fucking idea. Fleetway is a rendition of Sonic's powered-up supersonic form that lusts for chaos and destruction, our hero Sonic struggling to keep control. The main twist with this level is that at one point in the middle, Fleetway fires a laser at you, and if you don't hit spacebar fast enough, you die instantly. They did plan to have this happen more often, but supposedly having it happen more than once would crash the game, which is fucking hilarious if it's true. Also, in the middle of Chaos, BF will get powered up into his Chaos Control super form, which mechanically does nothing, I don't know what to tell you. He does have some great quips if you fail to beat him in the rap battle, most of which are insults directed at Sonic.exe.
Who's God now? Ha! What does hyper-realistic even mean? Super Sonic does what .exe doesn't do.
His song is pretty decent. The part he keeps singing after BF powers up is stuck in my head, and I'm not sure if I like that or not, but it's enough to give it a place above You Can't Run. Code 3113 gets you the icon known as Faker and his song, Faker. During this song, he just chills, looking pretty indistinguishable from Sonic, and this song is kinda uninteresting, sorry babe. That is, until halfway through, where this Sonic starts to convulse. This form of Faker comes with a new song, as indeed, this is a whole new stage. This right here is the shit. Faker's parts are catchy. The song has a bunch of switch-ups. BF's parts are kinda catchy too. Parts where the backing disappears to crash back in with Faker's singing is hype as hell. I get why this is a fan favorite. And you know what? It totally gives me Megalovania vibes. It's not as good as Megalovania, but that's what it reminds me of. I like Sunshine more. The ominous energy of the section where Tails is singing in the dark is beautiful. I'm sorry. I have no idea what level of blasphemous I'm being right now. The only thing I know is the Black Sun is beloved to the fan base. Otherwise, I have no idea what the opinions are. Input, up, down, left, right on the title screen, and you're getting a fresh delivery of milk. This song is called Milk Song. It has Sunky in it.
This is a certified hood clap.
A couple of points, Sunky does the SpongeBob laugh and turns into SpongeBob. His song is lame, it sounds like a nursery rhyme. If you lose to him, this happens. I should add that Sunky is a parody of Sonic, his first appearance from a game made by Looney Dude. He also has a sequel spin-off called Sunky.mpeg. Oh god! He also has a sequel spin-off called Sunky.mpeg that is a parody of Sonic.exe. He's pretty well known, and I think looking at him and knowing he's called Sunky gets across everything you need to know. Code 0000 unlocks the Level 2 Fest, where you'll be greeted by this cheerful chappie, Sanic.exe. He's based on Sanic, who's like a meme guy. He's pretty much a different Sunky, except he doesn't have a game. He does have a popular bit of Gary's Mod user content, which is where the background for his stage come from. His song is actually pretty alright, it goes here. And that's it. That's everything. From the V2 version of the mod. Go back on! What are you doing? Stop! What are you doing? The V3 build was cancelled as stated before due to the controversies and leaks that happened, but the unfinished build of V3 was released. Not everything that was planned is here, there are bugs, glitches, and more, but it works, and we can see what was intended, and they intended a lot. Now, Sunky and Sanic have some more interesting things happening in their levels. Sunky just floating across the screen to completely obscure your view while chowing down on some cereal. Sanic floods the screen with MLG memes in a similar fashion. Also, hitting notes gives you a hit marker, which is adorable. And there's an absolute wealth of new characters and content. I could go into teeth-grinding detail about each and every one, but let's keep this quick. Throw me 2 minutes on the clock. It's a boss rush. Let's go. And I'm gonna fucking read it off the script, because you're not my dad and you can't stop me. And I'm gonna do it all in one fucking go. Alright, here we go. This will be one uncut shot. You're gonna see how much I mess up lines now.
3, 2, 1,
Starved Eggman is a rendition of Eggman that kills and eats Mobians. That's Sonic and Tails and the anthropomorphized characters of their world. You first meet him in the song Prey, which starts with you being chased by Furnace, a version of Metal Sonic meant to cook Mobians. Eggman kills Sonic at the end of this song. The stage looks cool, the song is pretty alright, it goes here. Starved Eggman follows up this stage rap battling Tails in some sort of butcher room. This little fear gauge in the corner here fills up the Starved Eggman hits notes and drops as you hit notes. The higher it is, the more damage you take. Fill it up enough and it's game over. The song for this stage is called Fight or Flight. Its rising tempo and Starved's creepy voice are cool. It goes here. Roundabout is the stage home to Needle Mouse, the main antagonist of the Needle Mouse stories by Shut Up Jojo. In actuality, Needle Mouse is a rendition of Sonic haunted by a girl named Sarah Henderson who tragically died in her forgotten grave, unknowingly paved over to built on by Sega Enterprises. She can be seen puppeteering Sonic with these red strings in the latter half of the level. The song is nothing special, it goes here. Cold Steel is your opponent for the stage called Personnel. Cold Steel is a Sonic OC song created with all the things a 13-year-old thinks is badass. First scene in this piece of art accompanied by a description that includes a bunch of fourth wall breaks. Like references to people the author doesn't like at school. It went viral, getting mocked all over the internet, and what's interesting is, as far as I'm aware, most of these people don't seem to realize this is a joke. Even the username scroll at the bottom is made up, and that user doesn't exist because it's just an edgy username to match the character. This level is titled after Cold Steel's catchphrase, "Nothing Personnel, Kid." The song kind of goes off and the line readings interspersed are genuinely funny. It goes here, and the form of Sonic to some degree. He will absolutely riddle your screen with error messages, and his stage has very creative visuals with all the glitching around. In the second phase of the song called Fatality, Fatal Error will relinquish his Sonic form and become whatever this is. His song is better than average, but not mind-blowing. It goes here. Okay, I think that was 2 minutes. I did it before on a different recording, and it was like 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So I think I did a little bit better that time. I'm hoping I fucking did it that time. If so, here's my celebration. Let's fucking go! If I didn't do it, fuck. Use whichever one of those I did. Good it all looks. 36. Out of them, and you already know. Web of Cracks. Properly grasp the impact of the game, and to do that, we need to study the spider web of cracks it left behind and what crawled out of them. And you already know how we're gonna do that. Mario's Madness is a mod for Friday Night Funkin', which was released in February of 2022, half a year after Sonic.exe, and it contains 36 separate songs as of the last release, which is truly insane. That's the maddest thing about Mario's Madness. Actually, no, the maddest thing is how fucking good it all looks. The polish on it all is wild. I'd argue even more so than versus Sonic.exe. The team behind it is of a similar gargantuan size too. Just look at this title screen, it's beautiful. We open with this gorgeously animated cutscene of BF and GF being delivered a game, which sucks them in. In this world of red lines, they meet Mario. The voice actor for him is genuinely incredible, and the production on his voice is fantastic. Listen to that weird little pitch that sits under his every word.
It's me, Mario. Almost. Oh, you two seem a bit scared. Well, don't be. I'm not gonna kill you. Yet.
He'll challenge you to 3 rap battles, and if you win, he'll let you go. After winning 2, however, BF and GF will escape from Mario, though still remaining trapped in the game. From here, you'll be navigating levels via this map, which mimics the one from the Super Mario game. Selecting each level will give you mechanics and an explanation of the story, and it gets pretty mad. I mean, literally the first level from here is Satoru Iwata introducing Chris Pratt as Mario's voice actor from the movie, then you rap battle Chris Pratt. What a time to be alive. From here, you'll be taking on a whole slew of recognizable characters. Mario to Luigi, Wario, Mario. It's mostly different renditions of Mario. But then again, Sonic.exe is just different renditions of Sonic. The most relevant character to us is Luigi in the stage, which is clearly based on I Hate You Mario, aka Mario.exe. Luigi is of course going into the red hot drink and returns to rap battle you with his face melted off. Look, I cannot even begin to describe to you the absolute creativity and talent on display here. This mod is honestly nothing short of a masterpiece from a visual and musical standpoint. Sonic.exe is a really cool mod. Mario's Madness is actually incredible. The ideas poured into every level are so interesting and fresh every time. In Versus Sonic, almost all of the levels are BF on one side and Sonic on the other. And there might be some extra visuals going on, but that's mostly it. The direction in Mario's Madness is exceptional. There's this section in which you're running away from a giant Mario chasing you down, and it's flipping between BF and another character running from Luigi. This part, where you're running away from a weird Wario head. Here, where you're singing down into a fountain where a chained Luigi is forever stuck, the camera panning up and down between you, and the finale of this whole thing. Holy shit. Every idea you could think of for creative presentation. The song is amazing. The speech Mario gives you before you head into the final stage is hype as fuck.
Well done.
As it's in a rap battle with you. The emotions coming out in both the visuals and the music. I mean, what the fuck? This is a mod for an indie game that's not even officially released yet. How does this little cartoon character singing in 4 different notes with no lyrics makes me feel things? And as we reach the climactic crescendo of the song, it's a shot to the heart, and that's not a Bon Jovi reference. It's a Mario spearing you through the heart. And that's the end. Yeah, this is absolutely incredible. I've never even played even a single note of Friday Night Funkin', but I don't need to. This is unreasonably fantastic. Hats off to all of those involved, assuming you didn't groom any kids or anything. I honestly dare not look into the mod team. I don't want to know. And sure, there's barely any Sonic.exe blood running through its vein, but to say this isn't clearly and directly inspired by Sonic.exe is a stupid thing to say. Why would you say that? Why would you be so stupid? And Mario's Madness is just one of the mods that has absolutely taken inspiration from Sonic.exe. In fact, from what I hear, it's basically impossible to get a mod off the ground if it isn't based on a creepypasta, horror, or about Sonic the Hedgehog. There's also a true versus Mario.exe, but it's just a straight up reskin of Sonic.exe with Mario characters and locations. And there's Hypno's Lullaby, inspired by a creepypasta about Hypno the Pokemon, and versus Garfield, inspired by the I'm Sorry John fandom, where Garfield is an eldritch horror, all incredibly complex and detailed mods trying different creative ideas. Friday Night Funkin' and Sonic.exe combined to create an absolute wellspring of ideas. I hope this isn't too jangly. It's time to move into the last sweep of this overture. This journey of ours through the guts and gore-filled landscapes of Sonic.exe's past is coming to its conclusion, but don't worry, I'm making sure we end this on a high. I'm going to talk about one last Sonic.exe game. One last time. Let's go for one last round. Sonic.exe One Last Round was created by Mr. Pixel for the Luigi Kid Challenge 2022. The most complete version available contains the gameplay sections for Tails and Knuckles, though Eggman remains incomplete. The gameplay mimics pretty perfectly the first Sonic, but the story differs from JC and Miss Crimson's original, and that's because the story here is that after so many years, Sonic.exe, or .omt as this version is known, has grown tired of the formula. He wants to revamp and restyle this virtual playground, take you for one last round before he takes your soul. So why is this the thing I'm ending on? Because, as is tradition in this fanbase, this isn't the final version of One Last Round. Mr. Pixel returned and remade it, updating and revamping almost everything. The upgrades are incredible, and while Tails is the only playable character as of the last update nearly a year ago, well, goddamn, just check this shit out.
Welcome back, old friend. I see you know something. We have done this so many times. I'm just tired. But you're gonna look. I'm going to give you one last gift. You're not very good at this. 'Cause I am. So let's do this. One last round.
This sprite work is jaw-dropping, no other way to put it. The polish on this bitch is mind-blowing. Every last one of us is gagging for the next update, and it must be coming sometime soon. The introduction alone, the fourth wall break, the lighting, what a ride. Sonic feels more like an eldritch abomination than ever before. The tentacle walls of flesh and eyes, the way Sonic morphs his form so much more freely than we've ever seen before. There may only be the first section out, but this is considered by some, including Luigi Kid himself, to be the greatest Sonic.exe game of all time, better even than PC Port.
Top 5 Sonic.exe games that are based on the original fan game. Number 1, Sonic.exe One Last Round.
Originally, this video ended immediately after discussing the controversy of the Sonic.exe dev team. I knew it was a downer place to finish, but I tried to spin it in a good light, that despite Sonic.exe seeming to be plagued with this kind of activity, the creativity spawned from it's breathtaking. Whether it be from those already honed at their craft or those just picking up a pen for the first time, so many, when faced with the question of what to make, answered that question with Sonic.exe. And that, in itself, has merit. It's inspired so much, and I ended it by saying that Sonic.exe keeps evolving into new forms, molded by people who love it. And one day, I'm expected to see something truly incredible come out of this community. And ending there would have been like that meme of the guy digging for diamonds, giving up just before I struck the real prize of this community. Mario's madness is beyond words, and One Last Round has me giddy to see what nightmarish work will come for the next update. There are finally elements of this fanbase, creations that I uninhibitedly adore. Sonic.exe has had a rough ride, there's no other way to put it. The wildest thing about it is that this, right now, is the golden age of Sonic.exe. It has never been better than it is right now. Never had more incredible creativity applied to it. And yeah, sure, I haven't played all of them, most of them, but I will. If this video gets, say, 70 likes, I'll do it. Sonic.exe is an icon of reform and redemption. It was terrible. The person who made it was terrible. It's like a plane and adventure movie that's trying to take off right before it goes careening over a cliffside. Its engine stalling over and over, its propeller failing to spin up, the rudder's getting stuck, and we watch as it goes diving over that precipice only to cheer when we see it take off into the sky. That's where Sonic.exe is now, aloft in flight, and from up here, the weather is...
AI Sonic means compilation.
Relax. Shimmy, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yeah.
Yo,
Drake. La 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 la.
Hold on,
Hey,
Shaq.
hey, there's no
Drake.
time to rest. Oh, I've been married a long time ago. Would you
I just watched a Skibidi Toilet video that was just like this, bro.
from year to go?
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. My brain from this channel, I ain't gonna lie, bro. I've disintegrated to Gen Alpha. I'm not gonna lie. I'm no longer Gen Z. My brain is Gen Alpha-ied, if that's even a word.
Oh, I'll be married. Time for some supersonic speed. You assume what I gotta do to get it to the you superhuman, then it better, brother, so that anything you say is pretty saying over me and it'll looks like nobody's around.
Yo,
Super idol the showroom, domain.
I don't know what this is. Some of these probably funny to y'all, but some of them not gonna be, because I'm not gonna know all of the memes, but the ones I do know. What is he saying?
What's the
No
smell?
translation.
What the hell? Oh my God, no way. He can't be invincible, can he? Tylko jedno w głowie mam, koksu 5 gram, odlecieć sam,
I don't know this.
krainę zapomnieć.
I don't know this. It sound like a hit, though.
Oil. I
don't understand.
千里一片苍茫
Bro, I don't understand.
I'd better get out of here.
Sonic got vocals though. I don't know why he got the vocals.
Man, everything's frozen. Let it go. So I'll show you how